Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to part 2 of Vampire The Masquerade Rivals, the expandable card game. In this video, we will start going over the actual vampire clan decks. We'll try and see if we can get through all 4 of them, but we might end up doing 2 in this video, 2 in the next, just so they don't go too long. If you go back and check out part 1, I did a long video, but kind of just a general overview of the game and some of the components and mechanics. If you want to check out all that, you can. Otherwise, we just want to hop into the actual decks here. Alright, so we're going to start off with your vampire faction decks. So we're going to jump in here. So you start with 7 of these in the pre-constructed deck. Let me move my camera down a bit. And that way we don't have to zoom as much. There we go. Yeah, so each deck, or each set of game you play, you start with a pre-constructed deck, which will have 7 vampires in your faction. And you get 2 more in the crypt pack as well, to make up your faction you start with. So this is the Brujah, who are brute force punks and warriors with a cause, all about dominating the streets, even at the cost of their own blood. They specialize in physical and ranged conflicts. So, alright, we'll just see some of their different stuff is. I am not going to sit here and read every single part of their thing, like I'm not going to read all their costs and all that, but I do just want to show off their disciplines. You have animalism, which is the little claw, aspect, celery, dominance, fortitude, obfuscate, potence, presence, poting, and blood sorcery. Now, Thin Blood Alchemy is not in this set. That's only exclusive to the Thin Bloods, which are a different clan. Alright, so here we have Hydra, who has 6 health. So they're going to have various healths, and when you do play, you always pick out your highest level. So for this one, we actually have all the rest are at 5s. 5, 4s, and 3s. So for this, I'm playing at the start one. I'm always going to start with Hydra. But as you pick out other, you pick up other expansions or other promos or whatever, you can get other ones that might let you pick different ones. Or I could opt to not have Hydra in my deck and start with a level 5 cost one. Alright, so his special ability is going to be when he's an attacker, you can pay 1 blood to draw a card. That's definitely not a bad idea. This is where I talk about they'll spend their blood to gain advantages. We have the Cossack, who has pay 1 blood. This character's next attack cannot be blocked. Ooh, that could be very helpful. So that way they can't, the opponent can't choose to change the target. Brother, if he's in a party, you can exhaust him. This attack deals +1 damage to the target. So this is one of the good points about forming parties with different characters. So if you did several different, you could have like 4 vampires out, and you could have them all just each do their own thing, or you could have them form into parties and they can form blockers and give extra abilities and stuff like this. Brujah, attacker, pay 1 blood. This is a ranged attack and deals +1 damage to the target. So, I believe ranged is one of them special attack types. So, like, we have physical, social, and mental attack types. Ranged is a little bit different. There's no ranged attribute on a card, so it does not add any extra damage. So, if I'm playing with her, I could pick social or mental to attack with. It doesn't add any extra additional things to that. So, if I play a mental attack, and with her doing a mental attack, I can do 2 plus whatever. Ranged attacks cannot be blocked except by a vampire with a specific ability to do so. Guards also have the block ability. And range damage is reduced by their physical attributes. So that they can still defend and gain defense points using their physical numbers, but it allows them, again, not to be able to block it. But it says this ranged attack deals +1. So I'd have to mention ranged, and I'd have to play a ranged card, such as the 38 special, because she doesn't have an inherent ranged value. Alright, then we have Johnny. Party. When this party defeats and burns a city deck mortal, Each character in this party may mend 1 instead of the normal burn benefit. Interesting, so instead of maybe gaining 3 for himself, he can spread it amongst everybody else. We have Skunk, who has Guard, can block ranged attacks. Says right there. And our final one is we have Sweetums. Guard, this character may block ranged attacks. So a little bit cheaper characters, but they can be used to help block some of your attacks. They're, again, in the deck, which again are not, watch the first video, are not specific to them. You can play these in any deck, but they kind of work well like this. So when you defeat a non-rival character, gain 1 agenda. When you defeat a character with 5+ blood potency, gain 1 agenda. So yeah, this is basically they're going to get points for just defeating characters, and they don't have to specifically defeat rivals to do that. Their Haven is the House of Pain. Leader ability, attacker, discard 1 card, your leader deals 1 damage to the target. So they're all about doing damage. So if that's your kind of gameplay you like, these are probably the group for you. At least out of the core set. We have 2 copies of the 38 Special, which does 2 damage. It's a ranged attack as well as a ranged reaction. So if someone shoots you with range, you can also use this as well. Isn't every Saturday night already special? We have 2 copies of the baseball bat. Now you can have up to 3 copies in your deck. So any of these cards that only have 2 copies now, the 3rd copy is either in another player's deck or another clan's deck, or it's in the crypt. So every box will always have 3 copies of every card, with the exceptions of certain ones that might be like very limited, like 1 per something. But typically there's always 3. So attack and physical attack and reaction, plus 1 damage to city mortals. Splatter up. 3 copies of Coup de Grace, which is just a general action. Used only in the streets if you have the Fist, which is, I believe, I want to say, Potence. So one of your vampires have this. You can then pay 2 blood to defeat a targeted wounded character not in their haven. So when you're straight, you can go ahead and defeat a straight one. Now, I spilled all my cards. So just to look at that as a quick thing, I'm not going to do this for all the cards, but it has to have that Fist, so it could be able to use it. So Johnny can't use it, but Beretta can. Brother can. Whoops. I'm just knocking everything over left and right today. The Cossack 10, not Sweetums, Skunk 10, and Hydra 10. So over half your characters can use a specific attack or action. So it's kind of a thing to pay attention to when you're also building your decks or rearranging cards later on. Because even if you don't change your clan or your agenda or haven, you're just adding in some of these other cards. Do you want to keep Coup de Grace? Depends on how many other different characters you take out. And it'd be the same thing for this. We have 1 copy of Fleetness, which has 0 blocking to begin with, but it's a reaction for range or physical. We have +2 for each of the celery symbols you have. This character has. So anyone that has that symbol gains an extra 2 block. So I just, again, quick. He has 1. She has 1. She has 1. And she has 1. So you have 4 of your 7 vampires can all use this attack. So again, that's going to be based on whether some of these attacks or reactions are worth putting in your deck. Or actions is if enough of your characters have that symbol for it to be useful to you. We have 1 copy of Free Money. It's an action scheme. So influence conflict, everyone gets to pay it. Should each player gain 3 influence? Now this is an interesting one, because some of them are like, should I gain something specifically, or should I do something to a target player? This could potentially help everybody. But somebody could be like, well, no, I have this guy down to like 3 influence. I don't really want to give him 3 more influence, even though 3 influence might help me. Or this other guy's, he might have a lot. Does he really need any more? Or I have a ton. I can go ahead and I don't care if I have any. So you might side with someone that has lower and be like, hey, what can you give me if I help you get 3 extra influence? So there's some interesting things there. 1 copy of Gang Up attack, +1 damage for each retainer in this party. So if you add more retainers, you get more stuff. 2 copies of Incite Rebellion. Social attack, pay 1 blood to burn 1 retainer from the opposing party, gain no rewards for this. That's fine though, maybe you get rid of them, makes their character a little bit weaker. 2 copies of Lightning Strike. Physical attack, if this party has +2 celery, this attack ignores all defenses. Nice. Action Conspiracy, Lost Glory. Play this card face down and place 1 prestige on it. This card has 4+ prestige on it. You may resolve it during your turn. So this is again, after you play it, you put 1 on there. You can now show it to any other foes during their subsequent turn. And they can opt after they see it to put more on there if they'd like to. That says target foe who did not contribute loses 1 agenda. If they have 9+ agenda, they lose 2 instead. So this again, where you can work with somebody else. You can be like, hey, we have low agenda. That guy has high, so I'm not going to show it to him. I'm going to show it to the guy that has less. Or maybe you might be like, hey, that guy helped me out on the Steam last time. You know, that guy went against me on the Steam last time. Maybe I'll do this or that. So it's kind of a neat mental game as well. 2 copies of the Molotov Cocktail. Range attack, aggravated, so this will burn guys. Discard 1 card, deal 1 aggravated damage to each of the other characters in the opposing party. Now this would be really fun if they start making big parties. You just burn all of them. And if you can somehow defeat them, then they're all, it's only 1 damage, but right, if you get them down to 1 health left, you can wipe out a ton of characters all at once. But even if you don't eliminate them, even just 1 extra damage on everyone can really hurt. The Primogen. Action title 1 per player. So you can only have 1 of these per your deck. Exert 3 influence attached to acting character. This character has +1 influence. Character deals +1 damage to characters with a title. Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know what? We're gonna hit whoever. So the Primogen, like, kind of lore is kind of like the mouthpiece of your clan. So this is one of the things where, like, every clan essentially has a Primogen. You know, rain on your parade, a social attack. If your foe has 9+ agenda, they lose 1. I mean, 9 of 13, it's not far away. It's definitely helpful. But it also does damage and stuff too. We have 3 copies of Scoped 3006. During your intel step, you may play this card face up as your attack to add +1 intel to this attack. So what that does is when you are creating intel, that is to go over the secrecy of being able to shoot into the Haven, or if other cards have created secrecy or need intel. So this will basically let you snipe over into somebody else's Haven, which is a good thing. They don't like, oh, I pulled my guy off the street because he's down to 2 health. Now you can shoot over there and take him out. Seduction. Choose 1, steal 1 blood from the target, or this attack goes +1 deck to a city mortal for each presence in the party. Yeah, so this will let you take out city deck mortals a little bit easier, or just give you some extra health. 2 copies of Slap in the Face, a reaction for social or mental. Deal your physical damage to the attacker instead. This character's add this character's attack to the damage. So yeah, if this reaction's back, it's going to do 1 damage, but you also get to add your physical attack. So depending on what character it's used on, this could really hurt them. 3 copies of Smoke 'em Out, an action card. Used only in the streets. Move all characters from target Haven to the streets. Deal 1 aggravated damage to each exhausted character. Move this way. So if they've used them for stuff, you can really hurt them. Maybe finish some of them off again. They think Haven's a safe place. Make it not so safe. Sucker Punch. Alright, so these ones up at the top, Smoke 'em Out has it as well. They have the Brujah symbol. So they can, again, be included in any deck, but they can only be played if you have a vampire from that clan in your coterie. Now, it does not mean I have to use that vampire to do it. So I do not have to play this on a Brujah vampire. I just have to have one in my coterie or in play for anyone to be able to use this. So if you make a vampire deck with 2 different clans, you can mix some extra cards. You're going to have a pretty good option. If you make a deck with 7 different members, 7 different clans, you're going to have a hard time using any of their abilities, because if you don't have that specific character, no one can use that ability. So just kind of an idea of what you can do with those. But targeted attack, you may retarget this attack to any legal target in the opposed party. So like, this is neat. So it's like, I choose to attack my opponent's Vampire A. They block with Vampire B. I can now flip my Sucker Punch over, switch it back to target A, or I could switch it to target C if they had a 3rd one in their party. It's just kind of a neat idea. You can get around that blocking mechanic with that. We have 3 copies of Terrorize. Mental attack. Exhaust all characters in the opposing party. So it might not defeat any, but it'll keep them from being able to move guys around or defend with them, or use them again. 3 copies of The Spoils. Unhosted action. Ongoing. When an attacker in your coterie defeats another character, each character in the attacker's party mends 1. Definitely not bad. And our final 3 cards for the Brujah is Throat Rip. Attack. Gain +1 damage for each character with the, I'm just going to call it the Fist, the Potence in this party. Yeah, so these guys are very damaging. They have a couple of things to get into your haven, but yeah, they're pretty more or less straight up a simple deck, what they want to do. All right, let's hop into our second group, which is the Toreador. Toreador? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. So these are artists, club hoppers, and seekers of beauty. They fight, scheme, and steal prestige with panache. They specialize in social conflicts. So if the Brujah are the vampires that hang out in the street, they're the hoodies. These are the ones that are sitting at the clubs, or the fancy exhibits and doing stuff like that. So they're like almost the exact opposite type of people. We have Lux Cheng, who has Party. Well, this Party has a retainer. Their party's first social attack during each of your turns goes +1 damage to the target. So nice. Bella Forte. Attacker discard the top card of your library. If it is not an attack card, this attack deals +2 damage to the target. So kind of like, hey, she's a brawler that's kind of hanging out with these guys. Mohammed Zadhead. I'm going to butcher all these names all over the place. This character has +1 influence for each retainer attack. So like, this is cool because that means normally each vampire only has 1 instinctual influence. He gets up to 3 retainers. He can have 4, so he could really do a lot of good influencing and help out with some of that stuff. Iris Loken. This character plays a scheme, reveal a top card of your library. Gain influence equal to its blood potency cost for this action. Then return it. So hey, another way to gain influence without having to exhaust all your vampires. Lisa Holt. Party. When this party defeats a character, you may attach one of the defeated character's retainers to a character in this party. Nice. John Cartooning. Who has guard, so he can block them ranged attacks. I read that and I realize it says it right below it. And Kai Smith, who also has guard. Their agenda. Playthings. When this character in your coterie attaches a citizen retainer, gain 1. So their whole thing is trying to gain 1. So Brujah was all about defeating vampires, various vampires, or other things. This one's all about gaining citizens. So basically building up a group of mortals that are helping you. Having the Penthouse. Leader ability. When a character in your coterie attaches a retainer, that character mends 1. So you can kind of see how those work together. Alright, then we have 3 copies of A Biting Comment. 0 attack, 0 damage, but it says choose 1. Deal 2 damage or steal 1 prestige from your foe. There you go. Stealing prestige from a foe can definitely be helpful as well. One of their clan-specific cards. 3 copies of a Backhanded Compliment. If the target is not defeated, your foe must mend them by spending prestige equal to the damage taken, and cannot spend their last prestige this way. That is mean, right? So you're doing some damage, but then your foe has to then spend prestige to heal them, so that could really hurt. 3 copies of Bounce of Power, a scheme. Choose at least half of the players, including yourself. Influence conflict. Should each chosen player steal 1 from the unchosen player? Nice. So, from an unchosen player. So basically, yeah, you have 4 players. You could be like, okay, I'm going to team up with, on player 1, player 2, we're going to team up. And we're going to choose player 3. So that's like, so that's kind of like, how does everyone want to do? So that's kind of neat. It's a neat little thing. So we got 1 baseball bat. So with the starter set here, we're going to have a lot more crossover of a couple of these cards. Further sets, for the most part, each deck only has its own specific cards. Any extra duplicates only show up in the crypt. But here they had some crossover between different decks because they didn't want to make unique cards for every single deck only, because it would have been, this deck, it would have had twice as many cards. So we could get a couple of these that are going to cross over from set to set. Alright. We have 3 copies of Beauty is a Beast. Oh, it's that meme. Unhosted action. Ongoing. During a social attack against a city deck mortal, exhaust. The attacker deals +1 damage to the target. So they're all about getting them mortals. 2 copies of Fleetness, which we saw earlier. We have 2 copies of Free Money, which we saw earlier. And 2 copies of Gang Up, which we saw earlier, which they like the retainers, so this is really good for them. 3 copies of Influencer, unhosted action, pay 1 prestige, ongoing. Each character with a, I always forget what these are, presence in your coterie has +1 influence. And this just sits out, right? So it kind of stays out there. 3 copies of Irresistible Voice, mental attack. With presence, you can pay 2 to steal 1 retainer from a target. If this party has the dominance, you pay 1 blood instead. So this is kind of a neat one. You have to have the presence symbol to even be able to play this. But if you also have dominant, you can pay it for a little bit cheaper. So it kind of works to have some of them characters, vampires, that have different things out. So like later on it might be better. So like Ty Smith can play it, but he's not helpful at all. But yeah, looks like most of the other ones can all play. I think everyone else, these 3 all have it as well. But here's also the interesting thing here. So if we actually look at this, lightning bolt, or well, I'm probably going for star, no star, star. You'll notice not a single one in here has that dominance trait. So no one in here can pay for this for cheaper. So that's kind of a neat idea too, because it's like, hey, that's a cool idea, but it doesn't work with these characters. So you want to put this maybe in a different deck. Somebody else can utilize it better. We have Lightning Strike, So, or we have 2 copies of Mercy, Action Steam, Influence Conflict. Should each player bank 4 on a character in their coterie or in Tapor. So that's neat, yeah. Do you want everyone to use a heal, or do you want to go just, hey, my characters are healthy, I'll spend points against this. If you lose, you don't have to pay anything, so kind of interesting. Primal again. Ruin Your Parade. We have 1 copy of Scry the Soul. Mental attack. This party has +2 of the eyeballs, which are spec. Negate the target's reaction, if any. So that's kind of neat. You can get rid of their action. But you won't know if they have a reaction until after you've played your card. We have 3 copies of Search Engine, Unhosted Action. Ongoing Exhaust. If you have the eyeball in your coterie, look at your top card of your library or faction deck. Leave it or move it to the bottom of your deck. That's kind of cool. So you can decide which deck you want to look at, and then whether you want that card or not. 2 copies of Seduction, which we've seen already. And then the last one is Steal the Spotlight. This character is a blocker. The attacker loses 2 health. Nice. So yeah, if they're chosen to be a blocker, then they actually lose 2 additional health. If someone jumps in your way, they're going to get stabbed instead. That's pretty cool. Alright, so I think these are going quick enough. We're going to just do the other 2 decks, and then we only have a couple of videos. So let's hop over into our next group, which is the Venture. Alright, the Venture are tyrants and kings, all about politics. They play the long game, gaining power and titles, then make their move. They use a mix of social and mental conflicts. The player should read the section about titles in the rulebook. Alright, so we're going to start off with Randolph Maras. Says, party, discard a title. This attack deals +1 damage to the target, an additional +1 if the character is a prince of the city. So this is, like, why would you want to discard a title? Extra damage, why not? Plus you can regain the title again, and they're going to probably benefit from that. Stevie Osborne. Gain 1 influence when any character in your coterie attaches a title. So right there, if you can discard your titles, you can eventually regain them, and you reshuffle your deck, and you can keep gaining some influence back, or some prestige back. So many terms in this game. Bruno Wagner. Draw 1 card when you play an ongoing card. Now you see these guys have that dominance trait we were just talking about. These guys would work really well with that card. Zhang Wei. Party. When this character has a title, the party defeats a character, that foe loses 1 prestige. Ooh. Montgomery White. Party. When this party has +1 defense during ranged attacks. Humberto Garcia, who has guard. I think they put guard in each one of these just so that everyone has the option to have that. So if you get 2 of these, we have Nancy Witt. Their agenda is base of power. When a character in your coterie attaches a title, gain 2 prestige. Again, there's only so many titles you can have out. Each character can only have 1 at a time. So you have to find ways to remove these to keep doing these. But even if you looked at the odd factors, you had 2 each. So you only need to attach 6 titles to be at 12. So it's only 6 times, and then defeat 1 other character. So even if you don't defeat a whole bunch of characters, there's definitely that way. And I'm sure there's going to be other ways to gain. So you might be able to potentially win without ever forcibly doing combat. So the Royal Retreat. Characters that title in your coterie have +1 influence. Discard an unattached city deck mortal in the streets to add a new card to the streets. So this lets you get rid of a mortal to add a new card, which might help you find some other stuff or just get rid of people. But also extra influence is definitely nice. Alright, we have 3 copies of their clan-specific Assert Authority. Ongoing, your leader has +1 influence for each foe in the game. So influences are going to be really helpful for paying for schemes and things like that. Burning down the house, which we've seen... No, I don't think we've seen that one before. Card has +3 or prestige on it. You may resolve it during your turn. Burn the target ongoing card controlled by a foe who did not contribute. So you can, this is where you can work with other players. Like, that guy has an ongoing card, which is really going to mess with all of us. So if you help me out, we can get rid of that card. We just have to play a couple of these. And it could be you have one player we specifically want to target. The other 3 players can all each place 1. Or I could play 2, or my friend, another player could be like, hey, you team up with me on this, I'll help you out later. I'll owe you 1 for something else, or I can give you this, or I won't attack you next turn, or some deal you make with them. And then they can help you out that way. 2 copies of Demand Obedience. This party has +2 dominance. I'm going to eventually memorize all these. Your foe loses 2 prestige. That's just never good, right? 3 copies of Dignity of the Office. Physical and social reaction. +2 defense for each character of the title in your coterie. So this could actually definitely give you a lot of defense. We have 1 copy of Fragmented Mind, Mental Attack. Your foe discards 1 card for each character with dominance in this party. So I just want to look at this, is how many of these characters have dominance? Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4. So about half of them have that. So yeah, that's not bad, right? If you have potentially 4 of your characters out, you could make a foe discard 4 cards. That could really hurt, right? 3 copies of Greed. Action Steam. Influence Conflict. Should I gain 2 influence? Now again, this could, if you win this, that's 1 less title you need to play with your agenda, right? And again, you can maybe work with, even team this up with the ongoing ability and that conspiracy. Maybe work with someone else and be like, hey, instead of being like, hey, help me out, I'll owe you a favor. With that conspiracy, you could have been like, that card's hurting you. You help, give me I'll let you help me get rid of it. I'll help you get rid of it by I'll put 2 on here, you put 1 just so you're not targeted by it. We'll get rid of that card, but then you have to help me at the next scheme I play, no matter what. Force their hand, right? Interesting. So we have 3 copies of Herald. Action title unique. Exert 2 influence to attach to an acting character. You pay 1 less to recruit characters, at least 1 from the blood supply. So yeah, that's we gotta add some extra, or make your character a little bit cheaper. So it says that Vampire may only have a single title. Titles cannot replace a title other than the Prince of the City, which always replaces the current title. So if you get the Prince of the City, which is in the street deck, that always replaces. Otherwise, a title is on a character. It stays there unless you get defeated. So it says to attach a title, you must exhaust your vampire you wish to attach it to and exert the amount of influence required by the card. So here would be, I have, let's say I have Nancy and I want her to have this. I would exert her, or exhaust her, and I have to pay 2 extra influence from some other vampire or some other source to play it. So basically, to get a title, you have to have other vampires. They're going to be like, yes, I recognize this person has a title, essentially. Titles have a blood potency and influence cost to play, as well as any other actions. You may use any vampire in your coterie to exert to play for it. The vampire gaining the title is not required to be among those exerting influence. It says you may also play an influence model or spend prestige from your personal supply to generate influence. You can also spend your prestige to do it as well, but remember, you don't get your prestige back. It says title is not removed from a vampire when they go into Tempor. So if they do get defeated that way, they stay on. The only other way to get rid of you have to burn them. But that also burns that. It says most titles are unique. Once a title is played, no other vampire of any clan may also have that title. If a uniquely titled vampire is in Kapur, you may now play that title, and that title is discarded from the vampire in Kapur. So basically, the vampire goes to Kapur, which is like the mending area. It's kind of like, that guy doesn't really exist, and other people can like play stuff and get rid of them. It also overrides the uniqueness rule for playing characters. So if you have multiple people like playing in a tournament against each other and they have the same vampire, you can't play the same name as someone who's out unless you defeat them, but then you can play that guy and get rid of them. Works the same way. So yeah, uniqueness is kind of, there are 3 in this deck, but I can only have 1 out at a time. So this might be one of them cards where maybe you might determine after a gameplay or two, like, maybe I'm not ever drawing all 3 of these. I only need 2 of them, and maybe get rid of 1 for something else. We have Insight Rebellion, which we've seen before. Keeper of Islam, is another title, and we have 3 of these as well. Exert influence for attached to acting character. Characters in your haven have +1 secrecy. This makes them harder to hit. Kneecap, we've seen. 3 copies of Know Your Place, social attack. +1 if the attacker has a title. The attacker is the prince of the city, +2 attack instead. 3 copies of Late Night Snack for each of those symbols, which are Fortitude. In your coterie, you mend 1 on each character in your coterie or tempor. This definitely just helps heal all your characters up. Nothing bad about that. 3 copies of Long-Term Investment. Action ongoing. Pay 1 to 3 prestige. Add double that amount of prestige from the general supply to this card. Ongoing. At the start of your turn, gain 1 prestige from this card. Burn when this card is empty, burn. So that's kind of a neat idea, right? You can pay... I can pay 1 now, and then now it has 2 points on it. If I pay 3, I could have 6. So I'm losing them. Like, if I pay 3, I'm losing 3, but I'm eventually gaining 3 additional over time. And then you have to worry about someone getting rid of this before you get to spend your points, right? Otherwise, you've completely lost them. As long as I wait until half your points are spent, then you're just out. A couple of turns. We have 1 copy of Mercy, copy of Slap in the Face, 3 copies of Power Play, Mental Attack, +1 damage for each character of the title in this party. We have another Primal Gen. Now, these are 1 per player, so this overrides that uniqueness. Each player can have 1 of these. We have 2 copies of Seneschal, which is another unique one. Exert 5 influence. Attached to the acting character, action, target foe loses 1 prestige. If no one controls Prince of the City, they lose 2 instead. So once you get this is every turn, you can go ahead and spend an action to make someone lose 1 or 2 points. And we have 2 copies of Sheriff. Exert 4 to attack it. Exhaust this character. Burn target ongoing card. Use this ability only in the streets. Then when you get rid of your opponent's ongoing. So this is kind of neat because you're trying. The whole point of Venture is to try and gain titles, to gain bonuses. But then they're also going to be able to use that to get rid of other people's ongoing stuff. They're like, no, we're the only ones doing this long con stuff. You guys get out of here. Alright, we have 1 more group of vampires to go through. And that is... the Makalvian. The Makalvian are madmen, visionaries, and oracles. They specialize in mental conflicts. They will be playing conspiracy cards and might seek to involve other players in their crazy plans. Yeah, so definitely interesting there, right? Alright, so first up we have the Governor. Draw 1 card. Now notice, he's, I think, the first one that starts with a level 5 instead of a 4 potency. So he starts a little bit lower. But yeah, draw 1 card when you play a card face down outside of an attack. So when you play your attack, you play your, either your face down attack card or defense card, depending on which side you are. So you get a bonus every time you do that outside of that. like conspiracies, for example. Bad Penny. Kapor. So while she's in Kapor, at the end of your turn, add +1 blood from the general supply to this character if it is in Kapor. So basically, just while they're in there, they're going to gain that extra health and recover a little bit quicker. Inmate number 7454943. Attacker, pay 1 prestige. This attack does 2 damage to the target. Velvet, gain 1 prestige when you resolve a face-down card outside of an attack. Karma, guard. And we have Lolita, who has guard as well. She's holding a grenade, or throwing a grenade, rather. Then we have one less, a 2 cost. I think is our first 2 cost as well. We have the Street Preacher. If ready, Relentless. Pay 1 prestige. Move to the streets to block a foe's non-ranged attack against any target in the street. Has the Relentless keyword, which... Let me see if I can find or remember what that is. It's the first time we've seen that. Keyword means you may use this activate ability during any player's turn. Interesting. So, right, you can, if ready, you can go ahead and pay 1 to just move him as a blocker so you can jump in the way of attacks. Their agenda is the end is nigh. The first time you resolve a conspiracy during each of your turns, gain 1 prestige and 2 victory points, or agenda points. So that's actually really helpful because you have to spend bare minimum, usually at least 1 prestige to play a conspiracy. So here you can at least gain some of it back. And the Haven is the Madhouse. Exhaust your leader, discard 1 card. Add 1 prestige from the general supply to a face-down card you control. So you can discard cards to generate more conspiracy quicker. So you can basically complete your own conspiracies. We have the 1 copy of a 38 special. 3 copies of All Tied Up. Action Conspiracy. Play this card face down and place 1 prestige on it. If this card has +2 prestige on it, you may resolve it during your turn. The foe who did not contribute exhausts all their characters. So, this is kind of neat, because you could, again, conspiracies generally going to work with other players, but these guys might just do it by themselves. They might not care about asking other players for help. They might, 1 or 2, but they might not. And if they don't, that actually lets them target anybody. So they get a little bit more options that way. 2 copies of Burn Down the House, which you've seen before. 3 copies of Cloak of Shadows. Ranged and physical reaction. Each character in this party has +1 defense for each obfuscate in this party. So that's their just kind of like hidden demand. Obedience we've seen. Destroy the Plans. Action Conspiracy. It plays with a counter. It has +3 prestige on it. You may resolve it during your turn. Foe who did not contribute discards 3 cards. 3 copies of Everything is Connected. If you have the eyeball in your coterie, add 1 prestige from the general supply to each face-down card you control. Now, each, that's crazy. So you could add up a bunch all at once. And the thing is, with these ones that say, conspiracies, they say 3+. You don't have to wait until it hits 3 and then flip it. You could place 6 on there if you really wanted to. And that might really confuse players because they might be like, why is he playing so many on there? That must be a really powerful card. And it might not be. So maybe they might target it versus something else. 3 copies of Faulty Logic. Social Attack. Your foe contributes 1 prestige to a face-down card you're choosing. If you resolve that card this turn, you may target that foe. That's kind of funny. You force someone to have to help you complete it, and then you could potentially target them as well. 2 copies of Fragmented Mind, which we've seen. 3 copies of the Holdout Dagger, which I get that it's supposed to be like the blood on there, but it looks like he shot it up through his finger. Even though it's just the perspective. Physical attack +1 for each obfuscate in this party. 3 copies of Insanity Defense, which is a reaction to everything, +1 additional against mental attacks. Very powerful, but again, it's a Makalvian only, so it kind of works. 2 copies of Kidnapped, we've seen. 2 copies of Lost Glory, we've seen. Another Molkov. 2 more Scryless Souls. Last couple of cards here. We have 3 copies of Unhinged. Discard up to 2 cards for each discard. Deal +1 damage to the target. So you can force to get rid of stuff, you can do some extra damage. And the last cards are Whispering Campaign. 3 copies of this Conspiracy. Wolf has 4+ prestige on it. You may resolve it during your turn. Steal 2 prestige from target foe who did not contribute. Nice. You can help get rid of somebody else's stuff. Yeah, so that's definitely a fun set. So we'll have one more video where I'll go over the streets and go over all the crypt cards, just so that this video doesn't go too much longer. But yeah, that's Vampire Rivals. There's our four first clans. Each other set will add 2 more clans, except for the other big box set, which adds Hunter, which adds some other different stuff. Yeah, definitely. So each one plays. One focuses on titles, one focuses on conspiracies, one's on physical attacks, and one was on, like, messing with mortals and retainers and stuff. So it's very different gameplay styles to fit how you want to play. Alright, that's what we have for this. Come back and check out part 3. See you guys later. Bye.